I've been asked to say something about painting halos on icons, and I thought I would divide this little talk into three, to talk about size, to say a little bit about method, and to say a bit more about the important subject of centering, finding the centre of the halo. So we begin with size. A halo can really be of any size. It can even be large enough to stray into the border of the icon. But it's amazing how many icons seem to fit into the pattern that is established by one of the oldest icons that we know of, that survived the iconoclastic period. It is Christ Pantocrator from St. Catherine's monastery in Mount Sinai, and it probably survived because nobody bothered to go to Mount Sinai during the iconoclastic period to smash these icons. But it is interesting that in this halo we see that the nose length is the same as the distance between the top of the head and the top of the halo. So it's a quarter of a head. Nose length is a quarter of a head. Not only that, but look, the width from the edge of the halo to the edge of the head is the same on both sides. And this is the critical thing, that it's the same on both sides, because otherwise it can look really wonky if it's not. Well, a few things about method. There's the obvious method, that is to use your brush and a steady hand. And this does need a steady hand. It might be an idea to use a pair of compasses to put in the halo with a compass with a pencil line, to follow that pencil line around and make sure the pencil line is covered up with paint. Or score the halo with a pair of dividers, that is a compass that has a point on two ends. Now when we're using a compass we need to protect the centre of the face. Sticking the pin of the compass into the gesso is a bit of a problem. But when we score, we are going to either just scrape through the top layer of paint to reveal another colour underneath, or before you start, score into the gesso itself so that that line will always be there as you paint. You can paint over it and the line will be there. You can gild over it and it will still show. Or you can use a pair of compasses with a pen. Let's have a look what that looks like. First of all, as I've said, have some protection on the face. Now D.T. Niles is about to get his halo, and I have a plastic ruler that I have a hole in the end, not all the way through, and I use some padding and I put a spring-loaded clamp onto it so that it's in place, and I make sure that the little hole is in the centre of the face, of the head. I'll say more about that later. On both sides and the same distance to the top of the head, and then loading the pen of the compass with paint, we take a deep breath. We take our courage in both hands, well, in one hand and the compass in the other, and inscribe the halo. then we can take a breath. Well, in a couple of these method bits we've talked about getting the dimensions at the top and the sides correct, and in order to do that well, we really do need to know where the centre of the head is. So we'll look at a few things. We can follow the tracing, or we can use a template or use a pair of compasses. But if we follow the tracing, which is a really sensible thing to do, we've traced the icon onto our panel and we've included in that tracing the halo. That should be correct, but beware. Let's come back to that. So if we follow the tracing, we need to watch that the photo that we've taken, or the photocopy that we've taken our tracing from, does actually have a round, a nicely circular halo. But photos can be deceptive, not only in colour but also in the way that they have been distorted by the camera or by the printer or something. You can get a halo that's not quite circular. Now you might be happy with that, it might look perfectly okay, that's fine, but beware. Or we can use a template, and there are plastic templates, a bit of plastic that has a whole lot of different sized holes in it, and that's perfectly good, provided you're lucky enough to have on that template a hole that's the right size for your halo, or you can make your own template. What about the top of a yogurt pot or something like that? But remember that the centre of the halo is not the centre of the face. It is the centre of the head, and that's usually different. The nose is usually not in the centre of the head, but to the side, and the same distance from the top of the head. So if we make this determination and stare carefully at our where we've found the centre, and look at our icon and know exactly where, usually just above one of the eyes and very often as high as the eyebrow, then if we cut out some sort of plastic lid or something like that that has a centre in it, we know where the centre of that is, and we place that where we know the centre of the head, not the face, the centre of the head is, and then we can paint around that template. Take it away, very nice. Or we can use a pair of compasses. There are probably easier ways, but this is what you learned at school when you loved doing geometry. Remember? Pair of compasses, and we're going to use our photocopy of our model, and we're going to start by drawing a straight line that intersects the 2 points on the halo. And then we're going to do the same again. It doesn't matter where, but so long as they intersect at 2 points each time. And then we put the point of the compass at an intersection between one of the lines and the halo and inscribe an arc. And then, without changing the radius of the compass, do the same at the other intersection and have the two arcs intersect each other at 2 points so that we can draw a line between the two intersections. Now do the same on the other line. When we draw this line, they intersect in the centre of the halo. Bing! There we go. And now that we know where the centre of the halo is, then we can do all those interesting things that we've talked about to get a halo that is based on the centre of the head. Now, if you're using a pair of compasses and a pen and you know where the centre is and you have my nice little ruler with a hole in it anchored in place, then not only can you inscribe one nice line, but if you want to have another one either of the same colour or a different colour, which is very often the case with icons, then you can just make the radius of the compass a little bit wider. It's quite simple, it's only scary. So there we have it. We've looked at a few things about halos, about their size, about trying the nose length above the head to have the same distance either side of the head. And in looking at method, we've looked at the fine brush and steady hand method. We've looked at the inscribing with a pair of dividers method. We've looked at the scary pair of compasses with a pen method, and we've talked about centering, that all-important centering that is required to find a good point of reference for making our good halo. So, happy halo painting!